Here's a look at the Vintage Collection Jabba's Palace Adventure playset. So here's a look at the playset in the box, and this box looks really nice. It's a really solid scene display and shows off the design of the playset really nicely while also showing you what it looks like if you can get all those figures in there. Now, most of the figures on the front of the box are not figures that are currently available at retail, and they weren't currently available when the set came out. That being said, most of them aren't too hard to get on the secondary market. But if we look up at the sticker on the front, we can see that the Han Solo and Carbonite figure and the Ree-Yees figure are included with the set. It's really refreshing to see a playset come with two figures, because it seems like the new normal is for them to only come with one. Now, the different photos around the box will show off different parts of this scene, different setups that you can have with the characters, and at the end of this video, we'll take a look at some photos that I've been able to take with this playset set up with all of my figures. This set looks really good on the box. Let's go ahead and get it opened up and see if it looks just as good in real life. Here is the set out of the box, and I do really love the way this thing looks. I think it looked a little bit better on that box, but that's always going to be the case. This thing still looks very nice in real life. There's some great weathering all around this thing. Some details I really love are those mounted heads on the wall, especially the tauntaun. Those look really cool, and I also love the grates in the ceiling right above them and below them, because that gives the opportunity for some really cool and dynamic lighting. I know that when I'm taking photos of this thing, I love to shine lights through there, because you can get some really cool shadows cast across the set. The set comes with two archway pieces. Those can connect perpendicular or parallel to the set on either side. Looking closer at those archway pieces, I think they look pretty nice. Each one is uniquely molded with unique weathering on it, which is good to see. The coloring on those arches is a little different than the color of the main wall. That stands out a little bit but isn't too noticeable. Really, I'm just a big fan of how dynamic they were able to get the mold on these to look overall. It doesn't just look like one solid print or color or mold throughout. It really looks like there's texture to it, there's shadow on it, there's variance in the pigmentation on it. All of that looks really good. If we take a look at the back of the archway, you can see they actually printed and molded a lot of details inside of the wall that you're not going to see from most angles you're looking at this thing from. I think it's really cool that they did that, and it's a nice extra thing. Now, the Carbonite block itself looks really good mounted up on that wall. I love the mold and the detail throughout that block, and I think it looks great. I love that on the side of the Carbonite block, even the control panels that Leia interacted with have painted detail on there. That's really nice to see. Now, you can connect it to the wall with a magnet that hangs onto a switch, and if we take a look at the back of the set, we can flip that switch down. When we do that, it'll lower the block of Carbonite off the wall and drop him to the ground. That's an effect from the movie that's really cool to be able to recreate on this playset. Now, looking at the Han figure itself, I think it's very mediocre. It's passable, but it's just a re-release of that Black Series 3.75 figure that we saw, and I think it really could have used a photoreal upgrade. The face paint on this looks even worse than it did in that Black Series release. My print is misaligned, which isn't that great. You can see the hair is not printed properly, but even ignoring the misalignment, the print quality on this does not look as good as it did on that Black Series figure. I don't know why that is in these old TVC figures, but I'm really glad we're getting photoreal now to avoid this issue. I just wish that this figure was given that same treatment. Next to this Han Solo figure, I've brought in Han Solo from the Saga Collection to do a comparison. You can see that on the Saga Collection figure, which is about 15 years old at this point, the printed detail throughout the body looks way better. The clothing doesn't look as plain and clean as it does on that new one. That's something that I think looks way better. Even the face sculpt, I think, looks a little better on the older figure. I don't think either one looks particularly accurate to Harrison Ford, but I think the detail on the older one at least looks a little more realistic. If there's one benefit the newer Han figure has over the older one, it's definitely the articulation. Looking at the Ree-Yees figure, I think this is a lot better than that Han figure, even though it's another straight-up repack from that Black Series 3.75 line. The figure has an amazing sculpt that holds up very well to today's standard. Even the paint on the figure looks great, which is something I'm glad I can say about this one, if not that Han figure. I think especially on the skin tone, on the hands, neck, and head, it looks really nice. Overall, I think the set with the two figures is really solid. Even though the Han figure is somewhat of a disappointment, what you do get here with getting two figures, one of the figures having Han and Carbonite, and a whole playset that's nicely sculpted and painted out of it, I think that's totally worth it. Now here are some of those photos that I've taken with this set, getting some lighting set up, getting all of my Jabba's Palace figures set up in there. I think it can look really, really amazing, and I'm super happy and excited to see what this set can look like with that upcoming Boba's Palace release. I know I'm gonna set it up as a Jabba's Palace display with all those figures in there, and I'm really excited to take photos of these two sets together. For another look at this playset, other playsets, figures, and vehicles from across the Star Wars lines, be sure to check out the Jedi Collector on Instagram. Link will be in the description.